All right, everybody. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. It's so wonderful to be here with you. I am, yay, everybody on YouTube, and thank you so much for all of you that are joining me here on Zoom. Wow, we have a very powerful energies going happening this week. So I'm going to jump really deep into the meditation actually first. Let me go ahead and share this. If you guys are in the Zoom, please go ahead and share it as well. And that would really be great because sometimes people don't get the notification. Um, let's see here. So yesterday we had an amazing class. I was teaching a class on deep self-trust. Very beautiful. Really, really loved how people in the hypnosis were able to access some profound memories and realizations and understanding. And really looking at the importance of self-trust, really looking at how it's literally the foundation of all the other parts of navigating the human experience as a whole, because in reality the human experience being the experience of being separate, and how to navigate that separateness when you know that innately you are the whole. So this is that remembrance that the human has to recover, from all the indoctrination that we receive as children, the concepts that roles that we have to play, emotions that we have to feel and process. So all of these are definitely a part of the human experience, and they are difficult until we remember and we realize that we need to understand that the emotions are bringing us important information, and that information is meant for us to process, to integrate deeply. And it's not meant to dwell, to attach, to hold on to, or to identify with. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that we do is that we completely become identified with the events that happen in our life, with the scenarios, with the emotions that are resulting from those experiences. And sometimes we experience lifetimes of suffering as a result of these experiences that are happening. So that is the representation. If you are to see a body that is embodying this kind of activity energetically, it is like life force pouring into that essence and then stagnating, just circling, circling, circling until eventually, usually it gets very slow and there isn't that much movement. And that stagnation then interrupts the entire electromagnetic field of the body, bringing it into absolute disharmony. So that disharmonious state is the fact that we are moving out of alignment with the natural cycles of life and death, which are a part of this human experience in the temporary experience of separation. And the resistance to that is precisely what is causing the severe amount of pain for the human. So then we enter the realm of self-compassion, self-love. What is self-love? Self-love is uh, the awareness that allows you to begin to observe this organism as a whole and understand what is the most vitality bringing, healthy way of existing. And there, you don't really have to do much in order to access that awareness, other than to stay still and to be aware, because we are innately in our bodies aligned with nature. We are innately, sorry, I'm losing my voice because yesterday I was talking a lot, so bear with my voice. We are innately that infinite potential manifested into the physical. So, you know, we actually as children have everything. We are aware, we are in that childlike state of in, you know, interest, and we are discovering the world. And there is very little emotional attachment that draws that child into moving and acting and behaving and speaking and screaming and yelling and being this expressive creator. right? And it isn't really until we start having the programming, like don't move, don't talk, don't say this, don't behave this way, or being neglected, or somehow not being connected with or communicated with, that the child begins to disassociate with their innate being, with their essence that is already there. So the child grows up into an adult, and up until the 30 years old, the 40 years old, 50 years old, we begin to look at ourselves and say, what happened? I lost myself in an entire life of contraction, entire life of suffering, entire life of counter creating, entire life of existing out of alignment with the things that are truly harmonious for me and my organism. So we are not aware anymore. We lose touch completely with that innate essence that is in you already. And to return back to that would be to just stay still and just observe the body and allow, again, that very natural essence of ourselves to emerge organically. We talk so much about organic vegetables and organic eating, everything being organic, but are we organic? Are we coming into a profound authenticity? Are we allowing that fluidity of cause and effect in our life, of the ebb and flow of the events that are happening in our life to move through us rather than to be resisted by us? So the concept of changing your frequency is really that of the more dense, the more resistance, the more contracted you become, the more stagnant this frequency becomes, in which it cannot move through. It just gets stuck and stuck and stuck, and nothing is moving through. So the human actually is causing such severe trauma to themselves. And what I see in my practice is that we are recreating the trauma that we've experienced as children. And we do it in very deep ways, very, very deep ways. It doesn't have to be the severe, traumatic experiences that happened, but the emotions, the thoughts, the way that our parents or guardians or family or friends managed and interacted in those certain emotional dynamics, we tend to repeat that towards ourselves. So if there was neglect from the mother, for example, or from the father, we neglect ourselves and we repeat that neglect, and we consistently don't address or acknowledge the needs, the desires. And that's one of the things that we were talking about yesterday. And for those of you that are interested, if you would like to check out that class, it's going to be under my course list tomorrow, that you can just access the entire replay of the course and the hypnosis. So the hypnosis was really fun to do, and it was very beautiful, because we literally went into the Akashic records, into the subconscious mind, to understand where are we holding these deep, profound, original thoughts of mistrust and betrayal. And that's really important to uncover, and there's many ways of accessing that information. You can do it in the hypnosis, and it's profound in that way, in the imagery and the symbolism that is provided to you through that experience. But you can also access that information in your meditation through your emotions and understand what are the patterns that you are repeating, and how you're repeating that in your life. Okay, so what's really interesting is that in this example of the neglect, we literally begin to neglect the self. We don't acknowledge our authentic emotions. We don't acknowledge our authentic expression. And a life becomes a play, really. We are just putting a mask in different scenarios, and we just play along with that mask wherever we're going. So this is something that we want to kind of take a look at, and really question, how much of your life are you wearing masks towards people and interactions? Okay, so let me stop and say hello to everybody that's here. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. It's such an honor to hold space and a privilege to be here with you. Thank you so much, Maria, Marilena, Helen, Louisa, Julie. Thank you so much. I didn't get the Zoom link in my email, even though I signed up. Julie, did you? Are you in the Zoom now? Can you put it in the chat? Is that you, Julie G? Let me know. I'll send out another email now, actually, if you guys want to join the Zoom. Hi, Geraldine. Very happy to be here with you. Me too. Inga, so wonderful to see you. John, gorgeous goddess, thank you so much. Nelly, gracias Geraldine por poner en tu lista de cursos la sesión de hipnosis de ayer. Lastimosamente no pudo participar del workshop ayer, pero apenas pude ver, voy a comprarlo. Sí, por favor. So Nelly signed up but wasn't able to come, so we will have her look at the replay. Inga, thank you so much for that super chat. Oh, that is so sweet. Thank you very much. Your super chats really help support me. I'm grateful for that. Jason, thank you. Alchemic, hello. Thank you so much, Inga. It's so wonderful. Liza says, so honored to share these weekly meditations. Yay. Julie, yes, found it. Awesome. Okay, good. So we are on track. Let me just take a look really quick. I might send the invitation out. Just bear with me. I did see some very interesting questions on the last live, and I'm going to find that in just a minute because I want to answer your questions. So if you guys have some dire questions that you guys are asking, what are you going through? What are you experiencing right now? What is your biggest blockage, resistance happening at this time? Where are you having the hardest time? In what area are you resisting at this time? Put that in the chat, and we're going to take a look at that in just a second. Let me send out this quick little email for anybody that did not, because we did have a lot of signups, but let me just put it out there. Let's see. Wonderful. So Tuesday, guys, if you guys are available, I am going to be hosting a full the eclipse. We have the eclipse this week. So tell me, how are you feeling the eclipse? And I'm really, really happy to host that with you guys. So definitely join that if you are able. I'll put the link in the chat in a moment. And it'd be great to connect with you. All right. Awesome. Karen, so happy to have you here. Okay. All right. So, what's up, fam? What's your rising sign? Hi, Logan. Karen, thank you. Felt an excitement. That's so awesome. Logan, no, it's actually Aquarius. Luisa says, I'm overeating all weekend, doing the work, releasing and doing deep trauma work. Okay. So what's coming up for you that we feel stagnant, if you wish to share? And what is triggering the eating, maybe, that, or what emotion is coming up that is wanting us to drive towards maybe more deeper nourishment? I am reacting with anger to things such as impatience. Okay, let's take a look at that. Right now, feeling rejected by the feminine is coming up a lot. Okay, let's take a look at that. But loneliness is very heavy right now. I seem to be feeling in the voids rather than letting them work through as part of this healing journey. Interesting. Okay, let's take a look at that. During meditation, my pineal gland is activated and I feel very strong, throwing in my throbbing, I'm assuming, Marilena, in my forehead. Why is that? Yeah, so I'll start with that question and then I'll go into the Zoom here. I see your questions. So I think we talked about this a couple times, but one of the most powerful things that happens when you start to activate your third eye and you begin to work with the information there, and it's not just like you're imagining that you're expanding your third eye, but when you actually begin to access your intuitive faculty and use the intuitive faculty, apply that intuitive faculty in your life, this system, this engine of creation starts to activate. The shifting of your frequency into this observer state where, because in order to use your intuition, you have to come into observation. You have to come into an open energy to receive the information that's available to you. So when you begin to work with this and you begin to shift your focus from the lower dantian into the upper, the heart, throat, the third eye, this literally begins to activate. The activation of your third eye literally is a system that is consisting of your pineal gland and many, many systems here in the brain. We'll look at it in just a second. But what happens is that you will feel a pressure here. And it is the opening of the third eye, as they say, but you are shifting your brain your system, because most of the time we are operating from the survival mechanisms, okay, the reptilian brain, as it is called. And when you begin to meditate a lot, you are shifting from over processing and only focusing from that part of your brain, from the survival, the fight or flight, perhaps just the analytical mind, into a more subtle, creative, artistic aspect of yourself. Because the spiritual work is one of pure creation, it's one of alignment with nature. And eventually, the more that you meditate, the more that you will balance how you are operating your brain, how you, from where you are pulling your primary information. And gray matter grows in the brain, sustaining larger bands of frequency within the body. So what will happen is that you'll feel pressure here. And I remember that when this first started happening, it happened in a class actually at the East West bookstore in California. And I was in an intuitive class with a shaman, and they had us tune in to our environment, to our space for the first time, to read the space. And that was the very first time that I used that faculty of that intuitive sense, where all, you're sensing your environment. And right then was the beginning. This pain over here, this incredible pressure in the forehead was so intense, and it wouldn't stop. And then I went home and I meditated for like 4 hours. And I thought that the pain, this pressure got so strong that I thought I was going to pass out. And I stopped, and for a week after that activation, I went back to sitting with the opening of that information. And it was before I even knew about the energetic body and about opening and closing chakras. It was really, as I'm mentioning now in our conversation, it's an innate part of your architecture and your structure. But as I began to exercise this more and more and more, daily, 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 it came to the point that the pressure was so strong that I really thought I was going to damage myself. And I just fell deeply into the pressure. I surrendered completely to the pressure. And I said, well, if I pass out, we'll see what happens. But actually what happened was it opened up my vision. And all of a sudden, from going from a very dark, so when you close your eyes, just sensing darkness and feeling darkness and not really having any connection to your environment, it opened up a vision, a new vision that I had never really seen on that level, clarity. And so when you have this pressure in your forehead, please try to build the courage and also this investigative kind of style of looking at yourself. Because when we come into this kind of investigative self that is kind of investigating and learning yourself, that's usually where you find some of the most organic realizations about yourself. You don't necessarily have to follow any protocol or any one certain way of doing. Just find out how you operate, find out what happens when you do certain things. And this is where you can start to learn about yourself. So that opening really changed a lot, because from there, it began to change. Okay, let's go into, because sometimes I do not get clear picture. Saw a red moon. Okay, awesome. So yeah, so and then the other thing that I want to mention, that this is the first step, okay? That pressure is opening that up is one of the first steps. There's also other reasons, Marilena, that this can happen, and I want you to focus on clearing out the lower three chakras also, because sometimes when we open the intuition, but we have a lot of stagnant energy in the lower chakras, there's also pressure. Because what happens is that when you're accessing your intuitive faculty, you're raising your frequency, and if you have a lot of stagnation, traumas, and stuff in the body that still haven't been moved through, there's a contrast in energy that you're trying to access. So, this is part of learning how to use this body, but do not be afraid, because as you allow yourself to feel that pressure and go into what it would be beyond that, that's when you start to see the body, and you will notice where you're holding on to stagnation, what needs to move through, what needs to change. Okay. Charles, self-trust training, couldn't get into the whole training. Yes, though, as I just mentioned, actually, Monday, that'll be available to everyone. So definitely check that out. Yes, Emma, replay is there tomorrow for you guys. Art Guy says, thanks for your service and grateful to be here. Self-love Sunday is my favorite day. Low energy this weekend. Thank you, Art. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, let's go into the questions. Very nice indeed. See you. Yes, same here. Put your questions in capital letters, guys. Maria, sometimes I see flashes of lights while clearing at the end of a meditation. At first, it was scary. Also, tears last time at the end of the meditation. What does that mean? Yeah, so I think in this meditative practices, I mean, the whole point of this meditation is that we come into a focused awareness and an observation of ourselves. And in that, you're going to see the multidimensional body. You're going to see yourself. You're going to sense your energies that are available to you. So be ready. Be ready for lights, for colors, because that's what you are. You are pure energy. You are pure light. And remember that infinite potential is self-organizing itself inside of this body. And we're tuning into that information. Your emotions, your feeling body, where you're holding pain, where you are holding stagnation, where you're holding on to emotions, are all manifesting in the body in some energetic form. And that energetic form has a frequency, and that frequency is seen as a color. Okay. And so the body, when I look at it, and when many psychics look at bodies energetically, it's a ball of light and colors and energies and runways of life force. Okay, so we have to get used to this, and we have to dispel this idea that it's just this physical body. We are very multidimensional. So when you meditate, go into there, look at the colors, look at the lights, look at what you see there, observe. It doesn't mean that we have to get attached to any one thing that we're watching, but we have to learn how to hold space in a neutral observation to experiment and understand. And at first, it's going to be this experimenting, understanding, looking, exploring. But then what we want to do is, from that observer state, and connecting to the subtle energy body, right? So as we are in absolute stillness in the 0 point, let's say you observe a color. Okay, so just observe, like, where in your body is this color, and does this color have a feeling or a sense or an emotion or communication or information that is available for you? Just to observe and see what is there. A lot of times these are thought forms. A lot of times they are emotions. And it's interesting to learn what you are holding in your energetic space. So take a look at that. And tears and emotions. So we have different ways of release. Okay. And people don't really talk a lot about this, but when we're releasing deep traumas or deep emotions, there's several ways that the human releases that. And here are some of them. We sigh, so we give heavy sighs. Okay, that's a release of energy and emotion. Remember that when you're exercising, how the human actually loses weight when they're exercising or when they burn fat is through their breathing. Okay, so all of these particles of fat are transmuted into this uh, air that we're breathing out. I'm sorry, I forget what it is that we breathe out in this moment, but we breathe out, and all of that is a transmutation process of moving, through the sweat glands, and through this biochemical transmutation. When we do energy, we are burning and we are moving all the stored chemicals in the muscles, and it's through the breath that we're actually releasing that. Okay, so understand that the body, carbon, exactly, Alexander, thank you. Um, you know, we need to use our breath for healing. So when we are going through deep release, that's why in the same way that when you're losing weight and you're exercising so much, you have to breathe properly in order to expel the toxins in the body. In your healing, in your meditation, when you're releasing a thought form or a heavy stagnation of energy in the body, it's going to come out through the breath. So we can do it through, um, inhale and exhale. That's why focusing on your breath in meditation is extremely important. Okay. Breathing down to the base of the spine. And the more deeper you're breathing, the more you are accumulating and grabbing whatever needs to be released out of the body in a conscious manner. And secondly, sometimes people burp, okay? Sometimes people can even pass gas, okay? Sometimes people sweat a lot, okay? So, we need to understand this body, like we're not just imagining the releases that we're having. There is a biophysical reaction that the body has in the release of this information. And the more observant you are of your body and your physical reactions, of course, like crying and tears, this is part of your distilling of these toxins or stagnant energy in the body. Okay. So the more that we have, the harder it is. And sometimes I have sessions where I have clients that they're yawning. That's another one, yawning the entire session. They were fine before, but once we get into the information, all they do is yawn, 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 one after the next. Okay, so this is talking about biophysically, the body is having a response to the emotional release. And so in those cases, my invitation, when there's tears, when there's, yawning, whatever's happening to you, first of all, immediately understand that this is part of the release process of the body. That's something we just need to understand. And then come into, a grounded state, trying to close the first three chakras, because what happens is that when we begin to sit still, and then all the stuff all the junk that's been sitting in your subconscious mind for a long time starts to come out. Sometimes we don't want to feel it. We don't want to, acknowledge it. And when we're used to escaping from our emotions for a very long time, it's hard for the body to access that intense emotions that we're not used to processing. So, in this way, the body is reacting. There's a very physical reaction where it's like, oh gosh, I have to get this out. I don't know how to get it out. So what I've noticed in my healing practices is that when I guide the individual to sit still with that difficult emotion, with the difficult thought that they don't want to accept or they are resisting, what happens is that there is a intensity that goes to the highest point, and it's the highest point of discomfort. But if they continue to observe and stay still, on the other side, it will completely come back down, and they are left with information. So take a look at the tears and observe, try to go back to that moment and just notice what emotions came up, as a result. Sometimes, and I've seen many cases, sometimes the tears are joyful tears, and sometimes they're sadness, and sometimes they're very neutral. It's just the body releasing. Okay, but try to identify what was the core thought form that was coming up for you then. So you're doing amazing work, Marija. Incredible. Very good. Let me come in over here. Yeah. All right, guys, so let's get started. Let me open our presentation. And what I'd love to do is talk a little bit about how precisely we are coming to that innate self, the innate self that is always um, available to you, okay? I know that we do a lot of practices and we work so hard on, um, trying to release the trauma, but I'd like for you to consider today that even though we have been deeply programmed in the spiritual community to think that we have to focus only on this, uh, deep shadow work, there's another deeper and next level work uh, that is simply accepting yourself fully in the present moment. Okay, and in the stillness of yourself. And when you find that observer, the observer that is within, to observe these thoughts, these emotions, these things that are happening, this is actually where you can shift from the perspective of being in a state of victimization and fear and trauma and the pain body into a state of pure observation. Okay, so in today's practice, I want to dive into that because um, there's a very pure energy that is available right now. And I think this eclipse has a lot to do with transitioning about simplifying things into the basic, the core fundamental laws of the human, the fundamental laws of our emotions, the fundamental laws of creation. And we need to go back to that simplicity. We need to go back to that pure understanding of what you are, because there is a re-emerging now of this innocence, this collective innocence, this returning back to that little child that is more fun and joyful and connected to their authenticity. So begin to observe, moving away from the idea of judgment or compartmentalizing or applying meaning to the things that are happening around you, coming back to that inquisitive part that is just discovering and exploring this human vessel, this human experience. And the process of that and how it's embodied can be extremely healing and alleviating, for these deep traumas. Okay. So let's go into it. Charles says, how do I deal with family members who get triggered and attack me? Let me answer that before we get into this question. So first of all, we have to remember that we have contracts with every single human that we interact with, family, friends, okay? Um, Work from the highest level. And how do we work from the highest level is that we begin to become aware of what our contractual experiential agreements are with our families and friends. Understand the mirror, okay? When you begin to see the mirror that is being triggered, um, it will completely take you into a state of compassion where you are seeing the other, you see yourself in the other, and you understand the reflection that is there, okay? Because actually it's not a matter of dealing. There's nothing to deal with, okay? We need to understand, hold our space for your pure authenticity, and also in meditation review, what is your trigger? Okay, in these kinds of emotional dynamics, there's always two ways. How we hold our energy is actually the first way that we begin to energetically charge and exchange with another person. So if we come into an environment in a defensive energy or an insecure energy or an expecting energy that we're going to have retaliation or resistance or not be supported in some way, it energetically, we are already charging the field with this information. Okay. And so there it begins to completely be a mirror. And all of those little subconscious thoughts of like insecurity or doubt or fear of having any resistance, if you talk with the other person or you begin to observe them and look underneath their reactions, their behaviors, you're going to find the exact same thing. You're going to find the same mirror there for you. So the important thing to understand when it comes to triggers is what is the mirror? What is being mirrored in that experience? And that experience is solely for you to begin to apply your free will to choose how you are going to respond in that experience. That's the sole reason of that experience. That experience is not meant to change the other one. It's not meant to impart anything on them. It is for you to change, because this is you are the center point of your universe. You are the center point of your creation, and you are responsible for this physical vessel. And if we continuously bring this physical vessel in a state of constant defense or protection, see, this is a very specific state of being. And that state of being is limiting your creative potential. So the more we go into a broader state of co-creation, which is most neutral, the most neutral state, non-judgmental, non-moving things, good or bad, or applying the meaning of good and bad to things. So anytime that we try to compartmentalize things, it's going to result in suffering. And I also want you to observe your expectations. Do you have expectations for the relationship that you are not meeting, first of all, fundamentally in yourself? Because if we go into the family and have certain expectations to be held or to be supported or to be loved or acknowledged or validated, and then we never get that, then we have to revisit, our expectation and take a look at why do we either get disappointed, or why do we get surprised, or why do we are confused about how to navigate that. Because once you understand that and address your needs in these interactions, be there for yourself fully in a loving manner. Observe yourself and say, I am feeling that I need support in this moment. So I'm going to give myself the support first. I'm going to fill myself with that support. I'm going to hold space. I'm going to acknowledge all of my needs. I'm going to acknowledge my emotions in that moment. Okay. Because that is the part we need. That's the actual work. So remember that meditation is not something that we have to just sit down and meditate for an hour. It's the embodiment of the observation, the observer, the awareness, and the meeting of the needs that are arising in that awareness that have to be met. So notice that if you start to meet those needs more deeply, before you even go into the family member and the relationship, the reactions won't affect as much. And also it's going to change the frequency in the field in what you're in a mirror to. Okay, so the other individual, remember that when energy is thrown at us, when we provide a wall for it, what is the wall? The wall is the resistance. The wall is the resistance, and the resonance is what brings these two energies together to begin with. Okay. So as you neutralize and you dissolve your wall, it goes right through you energetically. And this is why we talk about body of glass. It is purely the 0 point where you're not attaching or identifying with any individual part of yourself, but you come into a neutral state. And nothing can hit you that, because you are nothing. You understand you are all and nothing simultaneously, and you are the embodiment of that in a frequency. And when you're an embodiment of that in frequency, which means your emotional regulation, which means your non-attachment, which means that bioelectrically, the architecture of your body is spinning at a higher state. Okay, so the spinning of the higher state keeps you in a very specific resonance that things will move through rather than hit. your stagnation, your trauma, your blockages that you have that are a mirror to this other individual. Okay, so it's very simple. And let me tell you on the higher level how to handle that is that you work with the contractual agreements. Okay, so in meditation, and I invite all of you to do this. We should be working on our contractual agreements with all of our family members because they are the deepest ancestral programs that we are cycling through. We are not in the family randomly, no matter how difficult and dysfunctional the family is. We are there because we are a vibrational essence that collectively we are moving through evolution together. Okay, because genetically through the field, we are the closest match frequency wise. And you're going to see that with your extended family. This applies to extended family. It applies to neighbors. Okay, because again, the intelligence of this planet Earth self-organizes humans as frequency through resonance. Okay, and every single human exists in community in order to carry out certain lessons, certain experiences collectively. And ancestrally, all of the ancestral lineages of all the humans that are in that community are participating in, certain vibrational frequencies of collective lessons. Okay, so the more you understand this, when you work on the higher level and you begin to observe the contractual agreement that you have with this particular family member or individual. So in meditation, ground down, close the first three chakras, run energy through the body, come into that neutral state yourself, open your heart, your throat, your third eye, so you can begin to see from a higher perspective. So you can begin to see from a more neutral perspective, okay? And you activate your crown. Now, the reason why the crown is the most important is because the crown is the center of co-creation, okay? That's where your infinite potential has literally, the non-physical is creating the matter of this physical body. So that vector point of energy and frequency there is what defines everything that you are projecting into this realm. So if this is dormant, you are only operating by the cyclical unconscious genetic information. Okay, epigenetically, all of the belief systems, emotions, program trauma that is available to you, that's where you're coming from. That's where our perspective is coming from. We need to change that from there to up here. And the change is actually integration. Okay, we need to see, because right now our vision is very myopic. We only see ourselves as this human struggling, surviving, barely dealing with life. That's only like a quarter of the truth, maybe an eighth of the truth. Okay, that is a certain part of you. But then you have this other giant complex of your entire body, your true existence, which is interwoven into millions of dimensions, and literally infinite potential that is coming into your body. So the crown chakra will help when we are intentionally, clearly, wherever energy goes, where energy goes where attention is going. Energy flows where attention's going, right? So you are directing your attention from the lower chakras, it's survival, separation, protection. Okay, if your mindset is constant protection, your experiences are going to be to meet that need of needing to be protected. You'll have scenarios that will cause you to protect yourself. They will challenge that protection because that's what you're telling the universe. I need to be protected. Okay, let's create environments where you need to be protected. Okay, so people don't understand that, but what would actually alchemize that is that we come into a feeling of integration, and I am whole, I am complete, I am safe. Okay, we're going to provide experiences that meet that need, that desire to experience. So contractual agreements in that sense, when we shine the crown chakra on top of an individual, this can be anyone in your life, family, friend, colleague, brother, sister, husband. When we begin to shine the light on top of that and we begin to see the contract, the contract will show you what is your agreement. Some contracts are huge, heavy, and for family members and usually like life partners or long-term partners like that, the more intimate the relationship is, the larger and more ingrained it seems to be in the field. Okay. And as soon as contractual agreements or timelines or we fall out of alignment with these individuals, that contract will begin to shift. Okay. And you can break that contract because the contracts represent specifically the karma, the cause and effect that brought us into vibrational resonance to experience this life. So immediately shining the light on this and dissolving that and replacing it and also cutting the cord. Okay, so there's three parts that I want you to focus on in this part. You eliminate the contract, okay, and what you set as an intention. Everything in this universe is energy, and with every interaction with every other universe that we interact with, every human that we interact with, you know, we have a certain vibrational resonance, and right now that resonance is low because there's conflict, lots of conflict. Okay, now remember that that conflict is there for the evolution of both parties. That's something that we have to understand. Actually, conflict is a gift of potential evolution. Rather than looking at conflict as something horrible that we want to resist and avoid at all cost, we have to dive into the conflict to see what is there. Because if you don't, you're going to repeat it over and over again. This life is not just about getting comfortable, feeling good, it's not just about that. Because actually, you're not comfortable. You are in a state of resistance and you're pretending you're comfortable. Okay. The actual true state of harmony and peace, real peace, which is different than comfort, is that you are at peace in any situation, whether it's crazy things happening around you or wonderful, happy things happening around you, you are in harmony. The external does not define your internal state. This is very important to understand. So if that's the case, if the external does not define your internal state, you know, how we are interacting in resonance then has to be defined with intention. So there's a technique of using symbols, okay? So, or color, for example. So when you connect with this individual and you shine your light on them and you identify what is the symbol that represents the highest vibrational frequency for the both. And this will help you kind of understand, you know, first of all, you will get insight on what is the whatever you are shown. So it can be a color, it can be, you know, a red color. Let's say it represents safety. So that color that represents safety is telling you what both of you need in order to transcend the friction, the contrast, the resistance that you are both sharing with one another. Okay, so this is it's a very practical, easy way to kind of begin to observe. And yeah, so the next thing that we want to do is cutting cords. And actually, that's something that came up this morning in my meditation to share with you today about cutting cords. When we cut cords, we are neutralizing the energies and, again, the resonance that we're sharing with one another. Now, who's responsible for what you are putting out to the world? You are. 100% you are. Okay. So if you find that you're meeting these resistant experiences in the external world, you created them from deep subconscious beliefs. And I know people hate hearing that. I know they really resist hearing that. But when you get to the core information, the fundamental information that brought you into that situation, we have self-betrayal, we have ignoring our intuition, we have denial, we have resistance, we have fear, we have all kinds of complex emotions that we valued over our truth and over our intuition. And they all brought us into these kinds of dynamics of exchange. Okay, so we have to take accountability and responsibility for that and begin to change gently that. Okay, and that will shift the quality of our relationships, the quality of our experiences. Now, I am a tremendous fan of experience. Okay. Um, you have to experience. The whole point of this life is to experience a plethora of infinite potential of life experiences. And the more courageous, the more that you learn to trust yourself, this is the outcome of yesterday's class, the more courageous you're going to be in the facing these life experiences from a more fluid state, rather than being fearful and contracted and afraid of going into the human experience. To trust is a risk. There's a certain level of risk that we have to take. But the number one that we have to learn is that we cultivate a trust in ourselves. And that requires you to transcend the limited illusion that you are only the physical body. You are way more. When you start to see yourself beyond the physical as this infinite potential that is just temporarily experiencing these things, you are free. You are free. You're not attached to any identity. You're not attached to the physical body. You're not attached to suffering. And the human enters into the superpowers of the human, that we can transcend pain, that we can alchemize illness, that we can heal the body, that we can shift and control mindset in a way, away from a state of resistance. Control is actually not the word. It is a surrender. It's surrender. It's the opposite. Okay. So we come into a profound surrender into an experience, and that allows the human to move fluidly and to be able to access the infinite source of information, the Akashic records, which is what we did yesterday. What is the Akash? Simply, it is the memory of your field that is available to you at every time, in which all knowing is available to every single human. There is no human that cannot access pure knowing states. There is no human that doesn't have the ability to access all the information of the human history. Okay. And so this is something that the more we come into this 0 point, you have the ability of accessing this. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much for that question. I hope that answers that question. Thank you, Geraldine, for all you share. I have no connection to my dream state for decades. How can I remedy this, please? Yeah. So when we talk about the dream states, let me see quickly. I just got a message. Karen, oh, thank you so much for that super chat. I really appreciate that, Karen. You're so generous. Thank you so much, my love. Yay, thank you. Okay. So Ida, how do we remedy our dream state? So here's the thing. To recover the memory of the dreams, we want to try to become more lucid in our waking state. Okay. How much of your day do you spend in a state of awareness? How much of your day do you remember yourself? And how much of your day do you forget yourself? And you're just coming into autopilot, or you fall into a state of hypnosis. Okay. So the invitations practice, and I know this because this also happened to me, and it happens with many of my clients when they are working in these levels, and also, you know, many ancient scriptures talk about this, and also many sages and people that have reached some level of enlightenment or awareness are also experiencing this. That when we begin to come back to the observer, we begin to become aware of ourselves in a deeper sense. Now, remember that even this physical realm, it's like a dream state. It's like a holographic construct. It's a construct in which we are interacting. And so we tend to fall asleep here. We don't even remember what we had for lunch last week. And we might think that's ridiculous. Why would we remember that? Well, actually, that's a wrong way of thinking in our society. In our society, you know, we're so focused on instant gratification, and we're so focused on the external thing and the immediate thing that's happening in front of us, but there is no internal connection to the things that are happening outside of us. And what I mean by connection is not attachment. I mean the acknowledgement and observation of that. The acknowledgement and observation of that without attachment is actually the cultivation of the 0 point. So when we practice that, we are exercising different parts of our brain. Now, cultivating a meditative practice that allows you to grow gray matter in the brain is going to be very functional for you to access your dream state. So the more we practice, let's say Vipassana or just meditations of just pure presence, that will help grow gray matter. Anytime you also do something very creative, for example, exercise your creative energies. We do not put enough emphasis on creation in this world, and that is a very specific indoctrinated program to pull the human away from their creativity, because creativity you cannot control. Creativity is, radical, it's crazy, it can be anything, it's infinite potential. So the more humans are killing the creative part of themselves and going into the one that's just in the routine, Groundhog Day, the soul dies. This connection to your pure creation is limited. So the more that we go into the creativity, you're going to begin to move this energy in your body that is stagnant in a lower state of frequency. A lot of times when we've had tremendous amount of trauma, we don't remember our dreams. We don't even feel like we can access the dream state. And I also want you to address imagination. If we had an interrupted childhood, most likely we didn't have a chance to develop or utilize or feel safe enough to use imagination. So that's part of the creative juices. You begin to move your imagination by creating. You can draw, you can paint, whatever it is that you can do to start to come into that connection of, I can create something. What am I going to create? That moment of having to manifest something, whether it's drawing a square or a line, whatever it is actually immediately aligning the body energetically and geometrically in a state of a 0 point, because the human has to produce something, has to birth something in that moment. And that is a very healing thing that reconnects the entire system neurologically. It helps healing. That's why art therapy is so great. Also working with little pets and little animals is great for therapy, because you get to connect to this pure form of creation, of admiration, of awe, okay, of connecting with what is beautiful, with symmetry. Even if it's not symmetry, we're falling into the natural essence of creation. So the cultivation of that state is very important for the healing of the body. And this is important for men too, because I see a lot of men that they are blocked off from that creative part, and that is the wounding of their masculine energies. Okay, so they block off this creative part of themselves. They block off the connection to their dream state. And the dream state is basically where we are existing in higher dimensions and navigating. We live most of our lives in these dream states, and if we're blocked off from that, we're missing a tremendous part of information that is pertinent to the awakening of yourself in this dimension, in this manifestation. So the other part is once you start coming into the 0 point and you start practicing, moving and working with your primordial energy is also going to help you. And this is how we need to cultivate melatonin, okay, from the pineal gland. The pineal gland creates melatonin, and that through meditation, but also the transmutation of your lower primordial energy, sexual energy, which is creative energy, right? So what I see is people that have a lot of sexual trauma, they have a hard time remembering their dreams or accessing that information. Or in the dreams, they're very heavy, dark, dim. You'll notice that the dreams are very dim, dark, difficult to decipher. It's watery, like you can't quite tell what's happening. Okay, so this speaks to the level of information that you're holding in the body. The more that you clear out the junk, which is the attachment to the old memories and experiences of your life, the more you're going to free up space for creation. That's the whole point. So work with your sexual energy in refining that sexual energy. As you pull up the perineum, and I've taught I've talked about this in my alchemy class, but the contraction of the perineum and breathing that life force up the spine, slowly the moving of that energy up into the body is waking up all the chakras, opening the chakras, clearing them out. And we want to do some energy work. So clear your space before you go to bed. Okay, so the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, seventh, up to the 12th and 13th chakra, clear your bodies before you go to bed. And this will help open up energetic space. And as you pull up that primordial life force up into the pineal gland, you're going to feel the rush of energy coming into the body. Okay, this consecutive practice, and I know, Ida, you are a super energy light worker. Okay, so this is perfect for you because I know that I know what your practices are. For those of you that are deep in meditation and doing healing work and coming back into that oracle. Okay, so Ida is definitely on that path of re-embodying the oracle, which is the highest archetype for the female. That is the portal way into the spiritual access of information. It's simply the cultivation of our intuition, of our vision. Okay, so for the female, this is important. And to in history, in ancient times, the female was used to be the oracle, to be the one that connects. And it was through the refinement of the sexual energy that she redirected that sexual energy, that created pure life force, into the opening of her highest intuition. So definitely, that's something that we want to look at. So those are a couple ways, Ida. All righty. Inga says, I notice most of my dreams are similar. What I experiencing in real life, sometimes I'm flying in dreams. Yeah, that's very interesting. So if our dreams are repetitive or similar, take a look at, you see, the dreams, until we become very conscious, well, really on many levels, dreams are speaking to the language of the universe, which are very symbolic. Okay, there's a lot of symbolism that we find in the dreams. So every single human is going to have their own library of symbols, but there's also universal symbols based on energy pathways and how we understand and translate frequency through this dimension. Okay, and through the matrix as well, because there are collective programs that we tune into collectively. So tune into the symbolisms of the dreams. Notice the colors, the shapes, the objects that are always the scenarios that seem to be happening over and over, because that means that something is trying to be communicated to you through this dream. There's something that is wanting to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. And a lot of times we think that dreams are just abstract, but if we are deeply disconnected from ourselves, they can be abstract until we learn to kind of tune in to this information. And you begin to see symbols, and the symbols, including the colors, the way that you felt, the lighting, the objects, take a look and see what those mean to you, how they made you feel. What is the feeling every time of this dream that comes up? And if you simply in the morning when you wake up, sit with that feeling that you were left with, or with that sensation or sense or insight, it will open up a very interesting information with you. And what I noticed with my clients and with myself as well, that when we do that, it closes the loop of the dream, and you don't need to go back to that dream again. Usually something else will come up and emerge. So yeah, so try to see if maybe there's some message there for you. Okay. All right, guys. So let's get into the meditation. Krops Therapy says, what does it mean if you feel like you are living another life in dreams at night? Well, we are living other lives in dreams, because we are accessing our parallel aspects of ourselves. Okay, so dream state, we are leaving the body and we go, there's any number of places that we go. We revisit past lives, future lives. These are all aspects of ourselves that we are navigating and exploring. And the invitation is really awareness and integration. Um, in the same way that we're learning to do that in this present waking state, can you do that in this other life? So what's the theme of the life? What's happening in that life that you're living? What is your role? What's the archetypal role that you've taken in that life? That will indicate a mirror for what you're experiencing in this lifetime. And as soon as you begin to kind of become aware of that, I guarantee that things will begin to change. Okay, so very interesting to observe that. Dreams are very, very important. Shine, thank you so much for that super chat. Oh, you guys are so amazing. I'm very, very grateful. Jayden says, I had a breakup a few weeks ago, and her and I have a lot of mutual friends. We play online games together, and last week my friend stopped playing with me, only her. The losses are hard. Any advice? Yes, my dear Jayden, when we have these major transitions, it's really important to understand our attachment, and our relationship with attachment, okay? And we are innately communal beings. But what does that mean? Okay, our concept of communal, unfortunately, in our modern society, is rather more of a codependent interaction, where we are seeking to have these exchanges, and they're not always quite harmonious, or they're not always even exchanges. Okay, so when people leave and exit our lives, we need to kind of revisit the relationship, the quality of the relationship, and observe from the most neutral possible. Was the exchange even? Okay, or were we giving more than we're receiving? How did we always feel at the end of that? How are we left feeling? And remember that when there is never really a loss, but actually a shift in frequency. Okay, and when we fall out of alignment in a certain frequency with people, we need to understand what's happening. It can be one of two things. It's either a wake-up call, because someone is always in a higher vibrational frequency than another, because of the dualistic nature in which we exist. Okay, but that doesn't mean that one is better than the other at all, because when we talk about frequency on this level, it's very individual states of evolution that we're talking about. Each individual has their own process of evolution. Okay, but that process of evolution in all of its complexity, might elevate a need for a resonance with other kinds of communal frequencies. So we have to look and observe one of two things. Did we fall out of frequency because we're no longer in alignment with that person? Okay, and begin to understand person or people or community or connections or friend groups of people. Okay, if we begin to realize that maybe they're not really in alignment with us, maybe they meet certain parts of us, and what part are they meeting? What need do they meet in the relationship? It's completely naive to think that our relationships, when we're unconscious, are not to meet needs. Okay, when we're unconscious, our relationships are definitely on some level of codependency. We expect certain needs to be met. We get some kind of emotional thrill. We feel safe. We feel connected. We feel heard. All of those are externalizations of your needs, okay? Which is natural in relationships. But if there is a lot of pain when they leave, that means we were attached to the person and we're attached to the need that's being met. And if you look deep inside of you at who it is that feels the pain of the leaving, of the departure, that's the one that we need to look at, because that's the one that's in resonance with this individual. And what you're going to find is that that little part of us has some pains, has some unmet needs. And you might also realize that, well, actually, they never really met that need. It was just striving to get that need met that made me in relationship with this group of people. Okay, so in other words, I want you to connect with who it is that's missing, who is feeling that void, what part of you is feeling that void, what's at the root of that needing that void. Okay, and I want you to meet the need of that part of you. And what you might find is that you're going to alchemize that attachment that we've developed. Okay, and work energetically, cut cords, call back your life force into your body, which simply means that you're redirecting your attention from the others and the expectations of the relationship, the partnership, back to the self. Now, when it comes to intimate partnerships and we go through breakups, these are the most amazing initiations for humanity. Because every time that we fall out of resonance with an intimate partner, we have to really understand why. We need to understand, what was that resonance in that same way, and understand how to meet the needs that were not met, what needs to evolve, what needs to grow, what needs to shift. And you'll find yourself realizing that, it is perfect exactly as it is. And the lessons that we learn from these relationships are really openings for you. Okay. And perhaps there's invitations for improvement in some parts. So we have to look at what needs to be improved, or what mindset needs to shift, what needs to change in ourselves. Okay. Nothing is ever taken away from us. And this is something that we have to understand as humans. We are, as we started this conversation today, we are innately the all. And nothing can destruct that fact. Nothing can take that away from you. So our suffering is very much an illusion. In that, we are choosing to believe that we are separate from things, that we are different from things, that we are contrasting from things in that way. In reality, we are all mirrors to one another. And when we kind of mature into that understanding, the suffering ceases immediately when you realize that. And oftentimes you understand there's no need for that pain, for that longing, because the longing is met. You realize there's nothing to long. You have everything that you need right here. Nothing is ever taken away. So I think that's really important to understand, and part of unity consciousness, that we are one with everything, and everything exists in our field. And the moment that we start to change our frequency, all of the people around us are going to change. We're going to move, we're going to move on. We're going to have different groups of friends, because you need that. You need a different state, and sometimes it's okay to go into that. It's okay to be alone too. I hope that helped. Delna says, coming out of a 35-year relationship and having to be independent financially, what is the deeper learning? That's huge, Delna. So, this is something that I think is something that's healing in the collective, as we are as the divine feminine and the divine masculine is coming into harmony in this world. Okay, I think that because of the way that we've misunderstood the role of the feminine and the role of the masculine, and the whole concept of marriage, the inequality of the gender roles and how they've been presented in our society culturally through religion, through culture, is something that is going to be really coming into question in these next coming years. When we are headed towards unity consciousness, all of these old paradigms and belief systems of interdependent relationships and the imbalance of those interdependent relationships, in the past and now, the way that we see relationships is more codependent rather than interdependent, and not in a way that is productive and conducive. So both men and women are going to need to learn how to give and receive energetically. This is one of the initiations of the human race into a mature humanity. Okay, because we have such false concepts of that. And we need to understand the dynamic of exchange energetically. What needs to heal is, for us, any wounding that we have around our own power as the divine feminine, wounding around the idea that we cannot exist financially independent when it comes to financial independence, because for a long time the marriage was about contractual agreement, and it was about protection and having that financial support. So we're coming out of that. We're coming out of generations of that belief system. And it's going to make us look at money different. It's going to make us look at creation different. Jobs, how we actually create wealth in our lives. For both men and women, really. But right now, there's a healing for the divine feminine that's happening in the collective. The programs of the past of having to be dependent on another, to be protected, to be supported, has to change internally. And the healing that's happening internally for the female is that she is understanding that when she connects to her oracle, when she connects to the highest intuitive aspect of herself, her creativity, her creative juices, her creativity is emerging. Okay? And that creativity is what brings abundance multidimensionally in her life, in our lives as a female embodiment, as the energy of the divine feminine, in whatever embodiment that is. Okay? So the divine feminine that is emerging, that the balance of the divine feminine and the masculine, is implementing the intuitive connection with action, with manifestation, which is the masculine. Okay, so the implementation of that and the rebalancing of that, because when we have cultural concepts that we have to depend on the male, for example, for financial security or things like that, energetically, metaphysically, we are imbalanced in the body. And it's because the thought is a depleting thought, not a magnetizing belief. Okay, so what has to change is that the divine feminine balances the feminine and masculine within herself to become both the intuitive director, the co-creator, and the one that implements into action the things. This kind of healing is what creates confidence in the human. It heals the concept of separation, and it creates a profound self-trust with the self. And this has to be cultivated. And my invitation to you at this time is to focus on the cultivation of deep self-trust. Two things: that you produce and you practice integrity with yourself every moment of the day. So are your intentions in alignment with your actions? And is it congruent with your core belief systems? And the elevated human, their core belief systems, we're in alignment with the natural laws of the universe. It's no more these just simple concepts of human relationship. we begin to think broader, more expanded. What is good for me and this organism to come into its optimum function, and what is good for the collective? And are my choices in alignment with both those things? Okay, so this is a broader way of thinking. This is pure, abundant, creative life force. And when the human comes into that state of creation, they tap into how to manifest and embody and manifest everything that is required into the material, into the matter. And it comes from the integration of the upper, the lower and the middle dantian, through the heart, profound self-worth, profound deep trust, profound acceptance, love of the self. So abundance is all having to do with how you maintain and regulate your emotional body, your attachment to yourself and the things outside of you, the way that you are exchanging energy with yourself and with others. And when you begin to balance that, you immediately come into abundance. But this experience is happening to you specifically for the invitation of learning to cultivate profound self-trust. And in that self-trust, going into the surrender, that surrender, which is the embodiment of that high priestess, the high oracle, that divine feminine, that she trusts her intuition to guide that creative ability, that creative state. Okay, so I hope that helps. Just let me know if you have any questions on that one, okay? All right, my love, let's get into our meditation. Get really nice and comfortable. Breathing deeply. Ground down to the center of the earth. Go ahead and connect yourself. Come into as much stillness as you can. Find your observer. Observe what you're hearing, what you're smelling, what you're tasting, what you're sensing, what you're feeling. And keep coming back to that observer. Once again, find the observer and observe that observer. Observe the one that is hearing, the one that is smelling, the one that is tasting, the one that is feeling. Go ahead and focus on the root chakra at the base of the spine. Shrink that chakra down to the size of a dime, the size of a marble. Go up into the sacral. Go up into the solar. Go ahead and expand the heart. Expand the throat. Go up into the third eye. Go up into your crown, activate your crown. You are still operating from the observer. And I want you to bring yourself back into the observer. Remind yourself to come back into the observer as much as you can during this meditation, to bring you back fully into the present moment. Finding the observer is immediate grounding. Okay, go ahead and visualize that you're connecting yourself down to the center of the earth, aligning yourself with the frequency of the planet. You'll notice that you fall and drop in deeper. Let's take a look at our energy body now that we are in reading state, enough to read the energy body. Go ahead and read your body. What is your energetic field doing? Take your attention to your energetic field. Imagine that you are collecting all the debris that's in your field, and you're going to get a black bag. It can be a garbage bag, and you're just going to collect all of the debris that's in your energetic field. You can also just imagine sending it down through a vortex down to the center of the earth through your body, or out through the crown of your head. Go ahead and clear your space. And to make this easier, we're going to pull from the center of the earth through our feet, through the base of our feet. I want you to absorb from the earth powerful green life force that comes rushing up into your shins, your calves, your knees, your thighs, up into the solar plexus, creating a vortex field at the center of your body. From source, go ahead and pull down a powerful wave of gold cosmic energy down through the crown of your head, combining with the green earth energy. Feel the rotation of your Merkaba. Feel the rotation of this green earth energy and gold cosmic energy moving through your body. Observe, come back to the observer. We're not seeking pleasure. We are just seeking truth. Allow whatever is to be just as it is, without judgment. Quiet your mind from any judgments. Just come purely into the observation state. Go ahead and take 10% of that, send it back down to the center of the earth. Take 80% of that up your spine from the crown of your head, coating the outside of your body, outside of your bubble. You are creating a bubble around your body that is completely solid and closed all around you. You are at the center of this sphere. You're going to take the final 10% of green and gold energy and infuse it into your body, heal your body, love your body, feel compassion for this physical vessel that works so hard to keep us going all week, oftentimes being abused by emotions, thoughts, unconscious states. Go ahead and connect to this body, become aware of this body in the toes and the ankles, the shins, the calves, the knees. We put all kinds of masks on this body and animate it like a puppet to respond to our experiences around us, oftentimes depleting more energy than necessary, causing inflammation, illness, sickness, imbalance, disharmony. So right now, infuse the body with this earth energy and cosmic energy as you are essentially replenishing its essence. When we reconnect with the earth and this cosmic energy, we're just essentially remembering ourselves as the all. We are recognizing that we are this infinite potential. Releasing any contraction in your muscles in the body. Bring awareness to every part of the body. Coming back to the observer. Releasing all the contraction in the belly muscles, chest muscles, leg muscles. Coming back to the observer. Observe that your body, how it releases layers and layers of tension, layers of contraction, layers of resistance, layers of control. And every time you become aware of a part of you that is contracted, all you have to do is just become aware of it. Observe it, watch it. The moment that you release that, you uncover the innate wholeness that you are. You are whole already. There's nothing to heal. There's no traumas that need to be addressed at this moment. You're simply uncovering and releasing back to the whole self. That is just the observer. Every time you release, you're actually accessing your most authentic self, not the one that's contracted or resisting or putting on a mask of suffering and pain. You recognize it's okay to be in harmony. It's okay to be at peace. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to be joyful. It's okay to not be in defense. It's okay to feel safe. And it's even okay to feel unsafe. Because when you recognize this all, we don't fear anything external. We understand there's no contrast. Everything is just an extension, a reflection. Come back to the observer. Keep coming back to the observer. Keep releasing the tension in the muscles. Keep acknowledging where you're still resisting. And come back to the observer. Just notice, what is the emotion that you're holding on to and resisting the most? Let yourself be absolutely present with that emotion. And as you are present with that emotion, you will name out the emotions that are within this emotion. Go ahead and find the strongest of these emotions and be absolutely present with that emotion. And as you begin to find the strongest of these emotions, be absolutely present with that emotion. As you begin to notice, what are your core belief systems behind this emotion? Just observing. What are your expectations as a result of these belief systems? Are they realistic? In that, can others meet those expectations truly? Can you meet those expectations truly yourself? And see if you identify some unmet parts of yourself, some parts that we haven't wanted to see before, or parts that we are not familiar with of ourselves. What do you need in order to be familiar with this part of you? The one that no longer needs from the external or is externalizing the need. And as you begin to observe and gain insights on how to embody a new way of being, go ahead and see all the fractals of yourself through your life that have repeated this program over and over again, causing suffering, pain, separation in your life, dramas. Just look at all those little parts of you that they need from themselves in order to not pursue this. Breathing. Remember to breathe deeply down to the base of the belly. Anytime that you feel stuck in a certain sensation or feeling or emotion, breathe deeply, interrupt to gain access to the observer. The breath is the one that connects you to the observer. Because when you're intentionally breathing, you are moving away from just unconscious mechanistic actions into an awareness. You are reconnecting that awareness back to these natural behaviors of breathing. But when we're unconscious, when we're caught up in emotions or thoughts or ideas or analysis or judgment, we are not even conscious of our breath. Our breath becomes very shallow and disconnected. Very good. Go ahead and see all the fractals of yourself and infuse them with what they need at this moment. And as you identify these sometimes hidden parts of yourself that have holding on to belief systems, notice what comes up. Are you holding on to control, fear, anxiety, angers, judgments? What do you need to let go of in order to come into harmony with yourself, to come into peace? What do you need to let go? The need to control, this illusion that you can control the external in any way. Go ahead, see all the parts of yourself integrating into one self in front of you. Inhale deeply, taking back your life force into your body. Let's clear our space, eliminate all these thoughts, memories, emotion down to the center of the earth, up to the crown of the head. Go ahead and focus on the root chakra at the base of the spine, spinning it as fast as possible, opening it 6 inches wide. Up into the sacral, opening it back into a balanced state. The solar, opening it back into a balanced state. The heart, the throat, the third eye. Notice your creative color. Take it up into the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, the 15th, the 16th, the 17th, the 18th, the 19th, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. As you see the 24 strands of your field, of your DNA, really. Open those fields into spheres around you so that you can anchor and access this awareness. As you connect to source, go ahead and bring down that source into the body, grounding this upper frequency here with the physical, all the way down to the center of the earth. Go ahead and see your bubble being expanded and illuminated with this light, this core essence of yourself. And your crown chakra, I want you to expand it all the way around your body so that's it's your bigger field than your lower 7 chakras. Okay. Go ahead and open your eyes and come back into the room. And welcome back. You guys did amazing. I want to thank you so much for joining me today here on Self-Love Sunday, and hopefully you can anchor this 0 point every moment of your week so that you can manifest your highest health, vitality, and truth. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week. And also, if you want to join me on Tuesday, I will do that eclipse meditation and clearing. It should be fantastic, and it would be wonderful to see you there. So you can register through my website. If you want, I'll put the link here. Let me see, hold on. Just in case you guys have a hard time finding it. And also remember to sign up to my newsletter because I send out frequent messages on the events that are happening. Also, we have some exciting conferences that are coming up, and I would love for you to be a part of those too. Here's the link for that, and thank you so much for your super chats. I am so grateful for your support. Everybody in the Zoom, I love you so much. Thank you for being here. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.